All right, we're going to check out the brand new GX2 today by Taurus. What is the GX2? I have read that apparently it's supposed to replace the G2 series eventually. This is an old school PT111 Millennium G2. Then somewhere along the line, this is like the original one here, they changed it to just the G2 and they got rid of the Millennium name, if I'm not mistaken. And then they changed it to the G2C. And then now you got the G3C, and they're pretty much all the same. And there's a few subtle differences here and there, but I could never really tell the difference as far as, like, you know, experience and just running the gun and really the way it felt in the hands. They all pretty much looked and felt exactly the same. So little minor changes here and there, but whether you had a mill G2 like this, a G2C, a G3C, they're all pretty much the same thing. Now this is actually, at least it looks and feels vastly different. So in my opinion, I haven't fired it yet, but a vast improvement. So it's basically the same size, but instead of a 12+1 capacity like you got with the G2 series and the G3C, you're getting a 13+1 capacity in pretty much the same size firearm. The overall height is about the same. The overall length is pretty much the same. So it's basically the same size, but you're actually getting what seems to be a completely different platform, or vastly upgraded platform. I was excited when I very first seen that this came out. I've been wanting a TX22. I was like, man, I always wish they would make it in a 9mm, because I really just like the ergonomics on that. And I seen the grip on this and I was like, that's very similar to the TX22 grip, so I think that's as close as I'm going to get. So I don't know if they'll ever make a full-size version of this or not, because this is obviously a compact or subcompact, I think it is. But that's what immediately drew me to this, was the apparently much improved grip. And again, very reminiscent of the TX22 grip. It's actually got a lot better grip than the TX22 though. So that's one major change there. And I was going to say, I'm no expert on the differences between the Millennium G2 and the G2 and the G2C and the G3C. Like I said, there were subtle changes, but it felt the same to me. This one feels completely different. Now I'll say, this seems like they mixed the G2 series or the G3 series with the GX4. That's what this really feels like, but the grip is more similar to a TX22. But again, it is much more aggressive. The grip on this is fantastic, and even the guy in the shop, and as soon as he pulled it out of the box to hand it to me, I was like, wow, this thing has a nice grip. So that's the big takeaway for me, is the grip on this thing is just fantastic. I don't think I've felt, at least it's personal preference, I don't think I felt a better grip on a 9mm in this size. And I also noticed the serrations on the slide, extremely grippy, extremely easy to grab and rack the slide without moving. Just about the best I've ever felt, honestly. So I'm loving that, the grip on this and the slide. And of course you got the front serrations there, and they are just as aggressive if you rack from the front. You got a tack rail there. So it's sized like the G2C or the G3C, but with a lot of the, I don't know, features and feelings and ergonomics and what have you of the GX4 only sized up. However, I'm happy to report this feels so much better in my hands, not only than the GX4, because the GX4 is a micro and it's smaller and it's hard to hold on to and you can't get all your fingers on it, but I was looking into the GX4 XL. Trying to say, it's really hard to stay on track and remember what I'm saying and not make this drag on boringly. So anyways, I thought I would really like the GX4 XL because I really like the micro version, and I figured the GX4 XL would just be even better, bigger grip, longer slide, all that. So when I picked this up, I checked out the GX4 real quick, and man, this is so much better. the grip on this astronomically better than the GX4 XL. So I actually prefer this over the GX4 XL. And if you get the GX4 carry, again, this still has a better grip. That's a larger gun than this, so not in the same class. So anyways, very much like a G2C, G3C mixed with a GX4. That's the big takeaway I'm getting. That's kind of what it feels like to me in the hands. It's got basically the GX4 sights where you got the blacked out rear and the white dot front instead of the two white dots like you got on the G2C and G3C. And it's got the I mean, it might be slightly different, but basically the GX4 trigger, which was a vast improvement over the triggers on the G2C and G3C. I'll go over the trigger in a little bit, but I've done so much rambling already. We'll go ahead and take our first shots here, do a little bit, and then I will come back to this because it's getting too long and boring already. So these are my first shots here, fired at about 7 yards just to see where impact was, aiming at the bottom of that center red oval. So as you can see there, we are averaging a little high left. The sights are adjustable. I'll go over that in a moment. But now I'm actually shooting from back behind the camera here, which was about 17 yards. And again, these are still essentially my first shots here. Boy, I am just having a great day today. Now I was still aiming 6 o'clock on that center oval, so when you consider that my aim point was right here, and all the shots are going in this general area, she's definitely averaging a few inches high for me there. You'll also probably hear me declare a couple times in the video that it was off to the left, because those very first shots at 7 yards, they were kind of averaging left. It's harder to tell back here at 17 yards though. It looks kind of like they're centered, but you know, maybe they're still slightly left, but that was throwing me off a little bit because I was thinking it was left the whole time. It'll explain some of my misses today because I was holding off to the right the entire time thinking it was left due to that very first mag at 7 yards. I don't know why I failed to examine that they were actually pretty centralized back at 17 yards, so I must have just been throwing those first few shots. I'm not sure. Link in the description if you guys are looking for a good budget rangefinder. Rangefinder says that's 17.1 yards. The rear sight on this is driftable, so you have to use a little punch or sight pusher or whatever, so I can drift those sights. Obviously it's freaking freezing out here today, so I'll probably do that at a later date, but I'm definitely gonna have to compensate on my shots until then. 2 mags, no issues so far. And just a real quick mention, this is dry straight out of the box. I know a lot of people hate that, but I do it as a little bit of a torture test, because if she runs brand new dry out of the box, you know she's definitely going to be 100% reliable, broken in and lubricated, and so far no issues. All right, I got 2 more loaded up here. As you can see there, they do have the windows on the back, so you can see how many is left or how many you have to go. I will say these are harder, stiffer to load than the G2, G3 series, but they are loosening up some now that I've been using them. They were pretty stiff when I first loaded them at home. I loaded them, about 24 hours ago, something like that. Just kind of put that spring under some tension and start wearing it in a little bit, and then of course we just shot them, and they're a little easier to load now, even though my fingers are freezing already. But I'll go ahead and, I guess, since it seems pretty accurate from back here and the elevation is good, and as we just discussed, the elevation was in fact not good. Again, it was averaging several inches high from where I was actually aiming, and this fact was lost by me the entire day. I started missing some towards the end high, and I could not figure out why, but that was why, because again, it was shooting a few inches high for me. Obviously Again, it seems like we're averaging 3 to 4 inches left, which I see again there clearly. I thought it was shooting off to the left because of my first group at 7 yards, as we just discussed. Again, I don't know why I didn't even notice at 17 yards that it seemed pretty centralized. You know, call it the weather and all the other marksmen surrounding me this day distracting me, I don't know. But I was definitely compensating off to the right this entire time and forgetting that it was a few inches high. So, geez, I feel like if not for that, I probably would not have missed a single shot because I did pretty well with this thing. We'll need to correct by drifting that rear sight at a later date, but I should be able to hit these back here. Well, that target was on that one right there, which was 17 yards again, as the rangefinder said. So the ones further back are probably, I think they're like 22 clear to the back, but should be able to knock the snow off of these from back here. All right, 17 to 22 yards here back behind the camera. Well, this is probably this ammo. I've been using it with good luck for a while, but every once in a while I get a light primer strike. They seem to have a little bit hard primers, so she just went click here. It does appear there's one in the chamber. I'll give it a few seconds here. And there's that round there, and that is 100% a light primer strike. But again, I've been having that with these and only these with various pistols, so it's the ammo. The primers on these are kind of hard, so I'll pop that guy in again, which brings up the perfect time for me to mention this is it's a single action only. So the G2 series and the G3 series, they had a backup second strike capability double action, so if it failed to go off in a gunfight, by the time you realized it and pulled the trigger again, it would have already striked it a second time, which usually will send them off. This one does not have that, so that is one negative to that guy there. So I'm putting this back in the top of the mag. And we'll see if she'll light off this time. But again, it's the ammo, because I've been having this issue with multiple pistols with this Max Tech stuff. All right, and yeah, this thing is a little tack driver. Down there, 17 to 22 yards, no problem back here, and that's using about 4 inches of Kentucky windage because the sights need adjusted slightly. Which again, as we previously discussed in further detail, was not the case, so it was a miracle I was hitting all those anyways. Now, some people were just off to my left side, so out of respect for them, I turned the camera this direction so you get to see my horrible grip that you guys, most of you guys will always complain about, but this is the way I hold and shoot, and it's good enough for me to shoot pistols accurately 100 yards, no problem. So this is the way I hold them, and nobody's going to change that. And the purpose of this angle is to show you guys the gun running up close, not to show you my grip, but I just like to preemptively address that. This part's kind of funny. I actually sent a few right through that center hole there. It looks like they're missing off to the right, but it's due to the angle that I was standing. Anyways, that's 100 rounds dry right out of the box. Again, I like to do that as a torture test. Love it or hate it, but absolutely no malfunctions whatsoever. Like I said, we had that one light primer strike, but I've been having that issues across the board with multiple 9mm pistols, so it's just this ammo. Occasionally get a light primer strike, and it must have hard primers or something. I think Taurus has a winner with this. I was missing some out there from clear back here. I noticed they were going high. So apparently out like 20 some yards, we're getting a little bit of bullet rise, so getting a few inches high out there, 20, 22 yards, whatever it was. But so all this was done kind of long range today, and needing to adjust the sights, so not too bad considering that. But the trigger, I want to show you guys the trigger real quick while I'm here. You do have a loaded chamber, not an indicator, but you can look through there and see the cartridge in there. I noticed that while firing, so that alone is enough to show that we're empty, because you don't see a cartridge in there. So that's all the trigger take up you have. Now this is actually improved here, that's all I can say. But it's still got all this take up, and that's a reduced take up on the old school one there. I think the G2C, G3C, they're slightly improved triggers, but nothing like this trigger, like what's in the GX4 here. So you got a real short take up. Of course, you got your trigger safety there. And then a real nice, clean, crisp break with really no creep whatsoever. So there's your take up, and I'll pull through now. Like the slightest amount, and only if you're really looking for it. So real nice, clean, crisp break on that. I always thought the trigger on the GX4 was amazing, and they got the same trigger in this guy here than in the GX2. Now I'll see if I can get a weight for you guys real quick here. I heard the click while it was in the 4-pound range. Let's zoom this out some. 511, but it seems like it clicks while the screen is saying 4 something. See how we go from like a 5 whatever to a 6.6. It's got to be real consistent with the way you hold it on here, but I'll tell you, it's breaking in the 5-pound range. So I'll try again here. Man, that one almost broke while I was on the 3-pound on the screen, 5.1 ounces. So yeah, it might actually be like a high 4-pound trigger pull, but it seems like when I feel like I'm getting a good read, I'm getting a low 5-pound on the gauge at least. So, and I will say it was a little heavier at the house, and you know, I dry fired her maybe a dozen times, and it seemed to lighten up, I'd say, a good pound. Now when I got the GX4 brand new out of the box, it was real heavy, and it lightened by several pounds to end up being at about a 4 or 5 pound pull. So this one was a little heavy out of the box too, but not nearly as bad as the GX4. After about a dozen dry fires, it lightened up a little bit for me. But they do break in. Like I said, the mags are kind of stiff, but they're breaking in. They're getting easier to load. I did think it was cool. You got those grip panels clear up here, so if you got short little stubby fingers, obviously you guys already saw in the video, I don't have a traditional hold, so I don't utilize those. But if you do use the thumb forward method, if you got short little stubby fingers like me, you got that one right there. And if you're 7 feet tall and you have thumbs the length of my middle finger, you got another one up here for real long thumbs to reach that guy there. And the other thing I thought was cool compared to the previous G series, this was your takedown here. You had to pull it down on both sides. This one's just got the one single takedown lever there. You flip forward and then you can take the slide off. So that's an improvement there. Oh, and the weight, I almost forgot. This is about 2 or 3 ounces lighter than the G2C and the G3C. So a little bit lighter carry weight there. And one negative I'm seeing people bring up, these do not use the same mags. You know, this holds 13, the others hold 12. So you cannot use the G2C, G3C mags with these. They use a different mag. So a lot of people are not happy about that. But me personally, I'll take that one extra round of capacity in the same size package at the expense of having to get, you know, a whole new set of mags or extra mags or whatever. And just the overall better firearm, which, by the way, I never used to shoot those G2s very well, and this one I shoot excellent. The other thing I noticed, I was really surprised by this spring setup here and rod. You may notice it's not straight there. So I don't know what components may be plastic and what are metal, but definitely has some wobble there, and it's real flexible. So I'm not saying it won't last long term. This is definitely plastic here, but I'm definitely questioning the long-term reliability of that. I'm sure they designed it with that in mind, but who knows. I think a Lakeline stainless might be something I would consider for long-term use, so I'm not so sure about. For you guys who would say keep going, it's fine. Clearly you can't hear me when there's someone next to me. Not so sure about the rod and spring in this guy, but only time will tell if it'll last. I mean, it works pretty good, at least so far. I think that about does it, though. I'm pretty happy with the performance. She was 100% reliable for us. Like I said, that one light primer strike, I know it's this ammo because I've been having that issue across the board with that ammo in my reviews occasionally. I love that it's got one extra round and it's the same size as the G2C and the G3C. Grip is astronomically better. The trigger's astronomically better. Your serrations up here are better. It's lighter weight. So I think it's mostly all positives, and any possible negatives I think is just going to be personal preference. So I'm extremely happy with this thing, and like I said, she seems to be like a little tack driver too. But I'm definitely going to replace my old G2, and I would the G3C. I would the G3C as well, because like I said, I did not notice any difference between the G2 and the G3 series, but I am noticing a huge difference with this one. So I definitely like this new one a lot better. And like I said, the G3 seemed the same to me, so I'm really liking this new GX2. So it's definitely going to replace my G2. If you guys want to check out that GX4 review or the G2, G3 reviews I have, I'll link those in the description if you want to check them out. Well, that'll do it, guys. If you want to get any products you see me use in my videos, target stands, steel targets, paper targets, earmuffs, safety glasses, rangefinder, way more, links in the description for all that. For products I cannot link to on here, check out my campsite page, which is also linked in the description. I'm going to go ahead and split. Believe it or not, more people are pulling up. I didn't think they'd be busy with the weather today, but I guess I was wrong. But thanks for stopping by and checking this one out today, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.